Hello everyone and welcome to QualityOldHomm. Today it's time for another tier list, this time from tier 1 units in Heroes of Might and Magic 3 Horn of the Abyss expansion. And the units are rated not only based on their fighting capabilities, but also the requirements and costs are taken into consideration. Furthermore, in the background is my HoGoodie series, where the units have faced several trials, so that background testing is affecting the results as well. But without further ado, let's begin. First we have the unupgraded variants. First we have Kentaurs. I think the unit is kinda solid B tier, because mostly it is one of the highest speed unupgraded tier 1 units. And it's relatively sturdy compared to other tier 1s, so those things are going for it quite nicely. So kind of the solid basic tier 1 unit for the Rampart faction. Then we have Gnolls. In battle, when they get to it, they can do rather okay, but the issue is getting into the battle. And slow speed is my main qualm with this unit, and because of that they deserve only a place in C tier in my books. Goblins, I mean, they do have somewhat better speed. At the same time, their other stats are quite a bit worse than with Gnolls. However, the higher growth, or better growth, kind of compensates things, but still I think overall Goblins are a bit worse than Gnolls in the game. But the difference is not that great, but great enough to put them in this order in C ranking. Then we have Gremlins. Yeah, I guess one of the worst units to put in the game. Perhaps let's change the tier name like this. So yeah, the unit would be more useful in Skeleton Transformer. Of course, you should try to conserve these because the upgraded variant Master Gremlins is quite a bit better. So yeah, or perhaps to Skeleton Transformer or to the upgraded variant. But yeah, the basic Gremlins are just trash unit. Then we have Halflings, and I think these are the best unupgraded tier 1 unit. The only shooter with unupgraded units. And overall the stats are relatively decent, so these can actually carry you really well in the earliest stages of the game. So I think they deserve a place in S tier. And actually their combat performance in the tests in the HoGoodie series was actually quite on par with most of the upgraded variants, mostly because they are a shooter. But yeah, still quite impressive. Then we have Imps. I'm just considering whether they are better or worse than Gremlins. I think they are actually worse. So to Skeleton Transformer despite the higher growth. So I think once again the upgraded variant Familiars will provide some value, but the basic variant is just don't get these. They don't do that well. Then we have Nymphs. I mean, decent enough units. The stats are, or rather they are rather glass cannonish, but because of they move through teleportation and they can do some rather nice damage, I will give them B. Despite if they are hit, they will take quite heavy casualties quite early on. So really kind of a definition for glass cannon unit, though the cannon is quite small, to be honest. And then we have Peasants. Yeah, D tier. To Skeleton Transformer, actually the only value for this unit is the Skeleton Transformer. It's the slowest unit in the game, well, on par with Walking Dead. But that's not a compliment, but that's kind of an insult. So yeah, clearly the worst stats, slow, doesn't provide practically any value, so you have to be really desperate to use the units for something else than raise up as skeletons. Then we have Pikemen, kind of solid relatively solid unit. What I don't like with these guys is that they are relatively slow. So they are slow to get into battle, but when they get to the battle, I think they are actually one of the most solid tier 1 units. And thus I will give them rather solid B tier, somewhere around here. Not high, they actually do perform better in battle than Centaurs, but because Centaurs have so much higher speed, I think I will give these a lower rank than the Centaurs. Then we have Pixies, yeah, another glass cannon unit. The unit is rather fast, it's flying, and it can, well, the growth is rather nice, and the unit can hit hard, it's cheap, but then again, if someone sneezes in its direction, it will suffer casualties. So I was kind of thinking giving it A rank first, because it actually does perform quite well if something can soak up the enemy retaliation. But I think actually I will give it only B, because of the unit is so weak and the upgraded variant is so much better. So strong B, and I mean, it can hit rather hard. So a glass cannon unit with a bit bigger cannon or better cannon than compared to nymphs. Then we have skeletons. This is kind of a tricky unit. So if one considers the skeletons only through growth in Necropolis, even with unearthed graves, I think it should go to, well, skeleton transformer, if it makes any sense. But then again, if you combine the unit with necromancy, the huge power stacks of these guys, or actually skeleton warriors eventually, will of course go to S tier. But I think that's kind of a situational thing. So I think I will try to put this unit somewhere in between, because, well, you have cases where you cannot apply necromancy fully, especially if you are not playing Necropolis as the main settlement. But then if you are, then the unit is really good. I think I will give it solid B. So based on the growth alone, it would be to skeleton transformer, and with Necropolis only, or rather Necropolis main, I think it would go to S tier. But this is kind of a compromise between those. And the last unupgraded unit, Troglodytes, yeah, they don't have that much to write home about. I think they deserve a place in somewhere solid C tier. The speed is not that great, the damage, yeah, the stats are overall rather meh. But the mushroom rings kind of boosting growth is rather nice, but still not really good unit, in my opinion. Then let's move to the upgraded variants. First we have Centaur Captains. I think these guys actually are one of the best in top 3 of tier 1 units. So clearly S tier material, mostly because of the speed. The fighting stats, I think halberdiers actually have better stats overall, if one doesn't consider speed, but I think the speed is especially the thing that makes these guys great. So S tier material. Then we have familiars. I think I will give them actually B tier, somewhere around here. And why B tier for familiars? I think the improved speed is so much better that it actually has some utility in battles. And also the special ability can be rather useful in some situations. So yeah, I think solid B tier is rather nice for the unit. Then we have Gnoll Marauders, another B tier unit, a bit higher speed than Gnolls, a bit better stats, but still, I mean, the unit is rather slow compared to other tier 1s, and it doesn't do exceptionally well in battle. So B tier from me. Halberdiers, I'm kind of, should I give it weak S? or strong A. And since we don't have any units in A tier at the moment, I think I will give it strong A. So rather solid unit for tier 1 unit, but the speed is somewhat of an issue. So yeah, perhaps weak S would have been a bit too high for this one. So basically, if you use them for protecting marksmen, that's rather good use for them. But the speed is really, it slows down your hero and in the campaign map, and it makes catching enemies a bit hard in battles if you are going to offensive with these guys. And then we have Halfling Grenadiers. The upgrades, or getting the upgrade costs a bit, but I think the unit is by far the best tier 1 unit. Well, perhaps by far is a bit relative concept here, but solid shooter unit for tier 1, and it has rather nice speed, it has permanent luck, and it can even ignore, was it 10% of enemy defense value, so its value doesn't decrease so much in the end game compared to other shooters, low-level shooters that is. So yeah, I think S tier material over here. Then we have Hobgoblins. I think I will give them strong B. And the reasoning is that while their stats are still quite weak, the speed is improved quite a bit, and because you have rather large number of these guys, they can hit rather hard. But then again, when they begin to take damage, they will really take that damage. So in order to preserve them, you should be able to take the retaliations with other units and try to kind of guide the enemy to other units if you have some units that are of lesser value than these guys, because they will take those casualties quite heavily. Then we have Infernal Troglodytes. I mean, another B tier unit. Nothing special about this one. A bit higher speed, a bit better stats than normal Troglodytes, but yeah, it's rather average in every sense. And perhaps that's not a compliment over here. So it seems we have rather crowded B tier at the moment here. Let's see if we should make some adjustments. Then we have Master Gremlins, another tier 1 shooter unit. I think I will give it strong A tier. And the growth is rather nice for these units, and you can get quite a bit of them in the early game, and they can actually carry tower earliest stages of tower game rather nicely. So strong A tier. Their speed is relatively low, so that's kind of preventing me from giving them the S tier. If they had, say, one higher speed, I think they would deserve a place in S tier. But as they are slowing down the hero a bit, I think A tier, and they have worse damage output than these units. So also that's affecting the weaker tier. Then we have Oceanids. Another one strong A tier unit. Actually, all of these are now strong A tier, but yeah. Strong A tier, rather nice speed, moves via teleportation, and it's clearly an offensive unit. So it deals quite a bit of damage when it attacks. Then again, it's rather weak for enemy attacks, so a glass cannon with clearly bigger cannon than the nymphs over here, so the upgrade is clearly valuable for this unit. Mainly due to higher speed and better stats, so the unit can inflict quite a bit more damage. Then we have Skeleton Warriors. Based on fighting capabilities alone, this would go to C tier. But I think the same thing applies to this one as for the Skeletons. So I have to make a compromise, and the compromise will be A tier. So a really good unit for Necromancers, but rather bad unit for everyone else, practically. So A tier, solid A tier as a compromise. And then we have Sprites, another contender for the best tier 1 unit. No retaliation attack is really nice. The unit flies, it has high speed, So basically you should be able to kite quite a bit of the earliest battles in the game, unless you are facing shooters. So a really solid unit and rather high growth. Then again, really small amount of hit points. So once again, if someone sneezes or looks bad at this unit, then they start to take casualties. But yeah, I think things balanced out quite a bit in the later stages, and I'm not inclined to move these units either up or down. I think this will be the tier list. So feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree or disagree? And thank you very much for watching the video. If you like the content, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Have a great rest of the day. QualityOldHomm out.